regards to the mayor's report. Um, as I indicated, that the number of cases continue to increase in the city of Houston, quite frankly, throughout the entire state. And on Monday, we reported 963 new cases. On Tuesday, yesterday, we reported 1,060 cases. That is more cases than we have ever reported in a single day throughout this entire pandemic. When we have reported more than 1,000 cases, it has been a combination of 2 to 3 days. Yesterday was the first time that we reported more than 1,000. For the first time during the course of this pandemic, the state of Texas has reported more than 10,000 cases, and that happened for the first time. For the first time yesterday, the Texas Medical Center indicated that they have now gone to phase 2 in terms of their ICU bed, phase 2. And so more people are getting infected, more people are tested, are being positive, more people are showing up at our hospitals, and more people are going to the ICU. And so that we're in the midst of a pandemic that everyone is working every day to try to slow the progression such that this pandemic does not overwhelm our healthcare system. And that leads me to the state Republican convention that is scheduled to be held in Houston next week. We have repeatedly asked for the convention to go to a virtual session instead of an in-person session. I know the city has asked, the Greater Houston Partnership has asked, Verizon, Comcast, the Texas Medical Association has withdrawn the sponsorship and has asked. And then we've tried to put in steps, working with the health department of the city of Houston, if there were going to be an in-person convention, to make it as safe as possible. Even knowing that all of the steps that the health department was recommending, it still was not going to be the ideal solution, because the ideal solution was to go virtual. But the health department was put forth a number of measures to try to make it safer for the employees, the staff, the delegates, the visitors, and people in this city, as well as in the cities and towns from which the delegates come. And then last night, Dr. David Persse sent out a letter to me, as well as to Brenda Bazan of Houston First. And in his letter that came last night, in the closing paragraph, he writes that the planned use of the George R. Brown for convention activities over the next month is a clear and present danger to the health and well-being of convention attendees, workers, local hotel and restaurant owners, and Houstonians because of the surging pandemic. It is a letter that, as the mayor of the city of Houston, that I simply cannot ignore or overlook. And my number one priority is the health and safety of the people in this city. With all of that being said, I have asked Houston First and City Legal, working with Houston First, to review the contract between Houston First and the State Republican Executive Committee. I have seen it, looked at it, and read it. And to take a look at it, and where there are provisions that would allow this convention, allow us to cancel this convention, we will exercise those provisions. And the plan is to exercise those provisions to cancel this agreement, this contract today, to not go forward with this convention. The other point that I want to make, and in response to a question posed by Councilmember Kubosh, is that there are no other conferences and conventions that are being held in the city of Houston between now and the end of the year. All of them, with the exception of this particular one, the State Republican Executive Convention, all of them have canceled or elected to reschedule for next year. In fact, just last weekend, Anime Missouri Conference has decided to cancel. And the reasons that they cited were because of the public health interest of their attendees and the people in the city, in the city of Houston. So they have elected not to move forward. OPEC, which we have hosted for 50 years, canceled and rescheduled for next year. CERAWeek, which we have hosted for over 30 years, canceled but rescheduled for next year. The World Petroleum Congress, which has not been held in the United States for 30 plus years, that was finally planning to come to the United States and specifically Houston in December, have elected to cancel and reschedule for next year. They're all other conferences and conventions. Having said that, is that it is not prudent, it is not wise, and it is not in the public health safety of this city, the delegates, the employees, and others for this conference, for this convention, the State Republican Convention to move forward, and we will exercise the provisions of the contract to cancel this convention. So that's where we are. I simply wanted to restate that because I'm told that we had technical difficulty and people were not able to hear the earlier mayor's report. And hopefully people are now able to hear it. And so that's where we are.